Let's break down the truth about the economy between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, because there's a lot to talk about and a lot of people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So let's dive into it. We're going to take a look at unemployment, job creation, wage growth, GDP growth, manufacturing, stock market performance, and inflation recovery. And we'll see what the data actually holds, not what the narratives hold. Let's start with unemployment. This is overall unemployment for the entire population. This is where Obama took office at the beginning of 2009, and this is where the pandemic happened. Here, you could see that the trend line stays completely stable between Obama and Trump. Trump did nothing to accelerate unemployment rates becoming better. He just inherited this slope. And then we hit the pandemic, it went crazy, and it went right back down under Biden to the lowest rate in 50 years, which Biden has, not Trump. Trump used to say it was him. He can't say that anymore. But as you can see, it's a minuscule difference. The truth is, we're kind of just back to where we were. Trump also really liked to talk about having the lowest black unemployment rate during his presidency, which you can see right there. But if you take a look to the right a little further, Joe Biden broke that number in 2023. So Trump can't say that either. In the end, it's the same exact thing. Trend line follows all the way through Obama into Trump. Pandemic kind of ruins it. Biden fixes it and brings it lower than Trump ever did. Here is a chart on job growth in the United States. This is going back to Obama all the way through now. So you can see from Obama all the way through Trump, extraordinarily stable. Trump didn't do anything to increase it or decrease it. He just inherited what Obama had stabilized after the recession. The pandemic knocks it down. It comes back up. And now what you're seeing in this little dip here is trying to normalize, which is what the Fed is trying to do by increasing rates. It's supposed to slow down job creation, which will flatten out inflation. So this is exactly what you want to see, a return to where we were before, which was a stable job growth pattern in the United States, regardless if it was Obama or Trump or Biden. It's just how the United States economy works. Now, when it comes to one sector where Biden actually did dramatically better than Trump is manufacturing. As you can see here, the Trump line in manufacturing is very flat, and once Biden's infrastructure plan kicked in 2023, took off through the roof. Manufacturing is way better under Joe Biden than it was under Donald Trump, despite Trump's consistent claims that he was going to improve it. He never did. Joe Biden actually did it. It's in the data. One more thing to note is entrepreneurship. So as you can see under Trump, it was completely flat during the majority of his presidency. The pandemic made it take off because we all had to sort of adjust to how the new world was going to behave, and a lot of new businesses were formed. But then instead of it sort of falling back to pre-pandemic levels, Joe Biden had those levels maintained. Entrepreneurship remains dramatically higher under President Biden as opposed to President Trump. Just a note. Another important measurement is GDP growth. Here it is since 1980 in the US. These two little dips are the recession in 2008 and the pandemic. As you can see, in between those points, Trump and Obama had extraordinarily similar GDP growth, and then once this stabilized, so did Joe Biden. There's nothing Donald Trump did that was extraordinary or different. It was all exactly in the typical rhythm of the US economy. Didn't help, didn't hurt. Definitely not something he can take credit for. This is wage growth in the US. Right here is where Obama took office and at the end of the recession. Obama stabilizes it, keeps the pattern with Trump. It's consistently going up. We hit the pandemic and boom, it takes off. And that's why inflation went crazy, and then it starts to stabilize again. As you can see, there's nothing significant that Trump did or didn't do. Biden stabilized everything. It's the same narrative yet again. Yet again, nothing that Trump can point to that he really did at all. Stock market performance, another thing that Trump loves to talk about. Let's take a look at it. This is since right when Obama took office, right there, the far left, at the end of the recession. See this little line? Just consistently going up at the exact same pace until it hits the pandemic, drops a bit, and then keeps going back up at the same pace. Again, Trump did absolutely nothing to accelerate it. There's no clear accelerated growth. There's just two events, the 2008 recession and the pandemic that affect it. And then you see that dip in 2022, that's inflation, which we're about to get into. This is inflation in G7 countries since 1980. As you can see, a little unstable, but then in the modern era, we're stabilizing and kind of working together, and then, oh my God, the entire world pops up in inflation together. We all had inflation. So anybody who goes, oh, it's Joe Biden's fault we had inflation. Did Joe Biden make inflation happen in Italy and the UK and Canada? No. The entire world went through an inflationary process because of the post-pandemic effect on supply chain. It's not complicated. And guess what? We all fell right back together. So this idea that Joe Biden was the reason for inflation, it's wrong. Look at the G7 countries. Look at the way we're all tied together economically. If you had seen this line where the US goes way up and all the other guys stay low, you'd have an argument. But you don't see that because it's not what happened. I wanted to illustrate two things with this video. One is that Donald Trump's economy was really no different from the Obama economy. It was on the same trajectory, and Biden has continued that trajectory. So Trump didn't have a major effect in any massive sector of the economy that no other president did. And the reason is because of number two, is that he didn't actually do anything. He didn't have any policy that was enacted that was going to change the economy drastically. All he did was sit around and deregulate a couple industries that didn't actually have any benefit. And the moves he did make, which were two primary ones. One was his major tax cut, which ended up adding $2 trillion in deficit. That's not helpful for inflation. And two, he started a trade war with China, which he lost, and lost us $300 billion. So he made two significant moves, neither of which worked, and in the end only passed along the woe to the Biden administration when they had to deal with added amounts of inflation on top of what was already existing in a worldwide inflation situation. So not a great economic background for Trump, and he loves to run on the fact that he has one. But the truth is, he doesn't.